Today I've brought the FLM GE63 out in the cold and snow and see how it does in cold weather. So some of the questions I got after sharing my geared head review video and even sharing some posts on social media about having the FLM geared head and how it worked. People were asking, well, how does it do in the cold and snow? Because they'd had concerns about, does it freeze up when it gets cold, make it hard for the gears to work and everything like that. So I brought the FLM GE63 out here today in this snow cold. It is about 21 degrees out here right now, and we've just come out to a local park and we're going to try to get some pictures of the snow and the trees. It snowed pretty much all night, so it's a fairly decent amount for us, and we're just going to see how it does in the cold and snow. So let me get down here and check back in. So in my head, if the geared head is going to have problems in the cold, it's going to be when you have it out in the cold, take it someplace warm, like maybe you put it back in the car and you drive from point A to point B, things warm up a little bit, the snow starts to turn into moisture, then you take it back out in the cold and things freeze up. So to sort of prepare for this morning, what I did was I set this out on my back patio for about half an hour or so, 40 minutes in the snow. It was on my back patio, there's snow, blowing snow from the roof, 21 degrees out, and just let it sit out there and get snow. And I had it out there, got snow on it. I brought it into the house for a little bit while I finished loading up the 4Runner, brought it here. My theory being is I'm sort of trying to mimic and replicate the condition of where you've been out in the snow and cold, bring it someplace warm, then take it back out in the cold where there's a bigger chance of some of that melting, freezing back up and causing a problem with the gear. So I did sort of pre-prep this morning by doing that, just because I sort of wanted to be the most accurate test as we could. So I'm gonna go find a composition here. What we've got lots of snow-covered trees. This is just a local metro park. What I'm trying to look for is just while the snow is still on the trees in this early morning, get some cool pictures with that. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna head over this way, I think. And there's a little more open areas. I think it'll be a little easier to spot some compositions that way. We got some conifer trees that keep their green, so that's sort of interesting, and we'll see what we get. So I did a full video on the FLM GE63 several weeks ago on the channel. I will link to it down in the description below. And if you want to see all the specs, my thoughts, how it worked out in the field, pros, cons, everything like that, be sure to go check out that video. That's where I'm really going to talk fully about this particular geared head. But just as a reminder, in case you don't want to go watch that video now and you're just curious about geared heads in the cold, this is an FLM GE63 that I'm using out here this morning. It's a geared head, so I can turn this dial to rotate side to side, forward and down, and then I've got some panning adjustments. I got one at the base like this, and then I've got one up here at the plate like this. So those are the adjustments it has. It is compact. It's only about, I want to say, if I remember correctly from the specs, around 3.25 inches high. Only weighs a touch over a pound. So for geared head, it is very compact and lightweight. It really doesn't add that much weight to the tripod. It's well balanced on the whole bit. But that's the geared head we're using today to try this out. This particular geared head is also dust, water, and sand resistant. So theoretically that should help, because if I'm out here in the snow, out here in the cold, it should be keeping as much moisture as one can expect from the gears inside, meaning that even those temperature changes of getting warm, getting cold, shouldn't lock it up. I'm going to finish up this composition and we're going to take a peek, see what else we can find, look for a couple more, and just see how this thing does out here. So I'm just going through scenes here. I've been wandering around, looking out to pick out what I can. Set up a couple of them so far. So far, zero problems with the geared head. It has been working just fine. Again, I think it's something like 21 degrees out here. One thing specific to the FLM GE63 is I am wearing gloves out here. These are thinner gloves, but they're full finger, but it allows me to use the camera controls, use my dials, and it works great on this head as well. You know, my horizontal adjustment, piece of cake, no problems to use. Same with my vertical adjustment up and down, that works fine. And then the clamps been fine. And then the little panning levers on the side, all of those are fine. All of it works well. So in the cold weather, using this particular geared head, the FLM GE63, all works great with gloves on, no problems with that. So one of the things I'm looking for out here is this is very reminiscent of woodlands photography, which is something I've been trying to work on and get better at seeing. But today, what I'm sort of looking for is we got the bright white snow on trees, and I'm out here early enough that the wind hasn't blown the snow off the trees. So I'm looking for areas of contrast, things that sort of have the snow against a darker tree. The conifer trees and things like that also work well because they've still got the dark green on them with the snow. So I'm just looking for things like that. And in this particular scene, what I've got lined up here is I've got in portrait orientation, because I feel like this is a tall tree, and it's got the snow on it, got a snow in the foreground, got a little bit of a green bush down here lower left, just to sort of balance this frame out. And that's the sort of what I'm looking for. This is probably so far my favorite composition I've had from the morning. Again, we'll see how it looks when we get home on the computer, but that's what I'm looking for on this particular morning out. Snow-covered trees, looking for areas of contrast, patterns, something to bring some sense of order to the chaos of snow-covered trees. Gonna refine this just a little bit. Now, I will say this is where the geared head excels, and this is why, in general, I'm really starting to become a fan of geared heads. Lets me make very subtle adjustments to my composition. So with a ball head, I'd have to be loosening it up and be flip-flopping, have to reset. Here, I can make very fine adjustments with my composition, just like so. And let's check out this histogram. Good. But yeah, so this may be my favorite composition of the morning. Yeah, I sort of like that. So this one I am going to take the time to focus stack. Several of these I have not focus stacked. This one I'm going to because I'm sort of liking it. So we'll just start my stack. This is me knowing I'm getting to do a stack. Bring my focus point down to foreground. My one shot there. Bring it up into the midground. Get my shot there. Bring it up a little more. Get my shot there. And one final one we'll stick back on some trees in the background. Now my camera settings for that shot, just to go over them, I am shooting at ISO 400. There's a little bit of a breeze, so things are moving, so I'm trying to keep that shutter speed up a bit. This camera does really good at ISO 400, so that helps me just sort of keep that up. Aperture f7.1, and that does end up with me at a 1/100th of shutter speed, which I feel pretty comfortable with. It's just a light breeze, not a strong wind. Let's see, so I think I'm going to circle back around. I feel good about this shot. Like I said, probably my favorite so far from this morning out. No problems with the geared head. Like I said, it's working great. Worked really well on this because I wanted to make those fine-tune adjustments to tune this composition right up, and I didn't have to worry about the ball head and losing my whole composition. So super nice on that standpoint. So yeah, let's I think I'm gonna circle back around, get into that alley of trees I was in a little bit ago, and play back in there, and we'll see what happens. Okay, I found this little scene. It's really starting to snow now. But I found this little scene. There's this pond, snow-covered pond, got these cattails in front. So I'm going to try to get the cattails in front, the snowy conifer trees off in the distance, snow-covered, see what that gets us, and play with this shot real quick. Okay, move off to one last place. That was just for a little side trip there to shoot across the frozen pond. I had to be careful. I actually haven't been on that side of the pond before, so I'm not 100% sure where the frozen pond started and where the dirt ended, so I had to keep a little ways back. Might have been able to get a better composition if I was more familiar with that particular spot, but it was just a trail I hadn't seen before. So anyways, I'm gonna work our way around here and try to get one more shot here, and then we'll wrap this thing up. So far, the geared head's been fine. I've had absolutely zero problems, easy to use with gloves. Obviously, I'm getting snowed on now. So far, it's pretty good. Like I said, it's about 21 degrees out here, lots of snow. So, you know, there's certainly more extreme conditions out there, you know, all-day treks, things like that, which this is not. But I think overall, for most photographers, the freezing up issue is not going to be a big thing. I have to hazard a guess that if it is a thing, it'd affect a ball head too, because they're susceptible to freezing and everything like that. So, okay, we'll move up here and wrap this thing up. Okay, just stopping here for this quick shot. I'm not sure I like it. What I liked when I stopped was this tree trunk of this tree sort of does this little like S thing in it, but I'm having a hard time getting it to stand out in camera. I've done a sort of a wide shot, but then the tree is just sort of less interesting. It's hard to compose it well on that front. So then, got a couple of those. I tried zooming in just to sort of like, can we highlight just this tree trunk? Actually, let's move over this way a touch. Let's move you. But then that hides another piece of it. Yeah, that sort of hides some of the S. I was trying to move over and see if I could fix that background by moving. But yeah, we'll take this. I'm not super fond of this. I don't know. I don't think this one's going to pan out. So I'm going to move a little further down this way. See if I can find one more shot. May or may not find it. And then, like I said, we'll wrap this thing up like I've been talking about for a couple takes here. Okay, so that wraps it up for this morning. Like I said, I really just wanted to get this FLM GE63 out in the cold and snow, see how it performed. Did it freeze up? Did it have problems with anything? I think this is a fairly decent test for most photographers. Like I said, I set it outside, let it get cold, get snowed on, brought it into a house, get room temperature, took it back out in the cold, and I've had zero problems with the gears working or anything like that. Like I said, for this specific FLM GE63, it is advertised as dust, water, and sand resistant. So I think it's got its gears fairly well protected, and it's not really susceptible to cold and snow issues as much as maybe some other geared heads. But either way, it worked great with the gloves. I really don't have any concerns with this. So hopefully you found this video helpful. Like I said, I just did it because I'd had some questions on how does it do in the snow and cold, and I wanted to get it out and try it and see what it did, especially as I'm experimenting with geared heads in general, just how did this specific one do. So hopefully you found it helpful. Let's see, if you're interested in this geared head, I will put the video here so you can take a look at it. Again, it's a full review on the FLM GE63. You can hear the pros, cons, my thoughts about it, geared heads in general. If you're new to them, check out that video, and thank you for watching.